Welcome to Jesus Energy, friend. On Jesus Energy, we move beyond beliefs and focus on embodying the healing, transformative, and loving frequency of Christ. Hi, I'm Kate King, spiritual companion, writer, mom, wife, mostly just someone that's really obsessed with talking to other people about God. And on Jesus Energy, we get to learn from incredible spiritual teachers and healers that help us be expansive and curious while also rooted into the love of Jesus. This project is dedicated to anyone that wants to move into a more experiential dimension of Christianity, to those that want to be expansive and curious while also rooted into the love and wisdom of Christ, to those that are wondering if they're still Christian and want to hold on to their relationship with Jesus, and to anyone that simply wants to cultivate heaven on this earth and come more fully alive. This is for us. Today, we have the blessed and beautiful opportunity to learn from the eloquent, the exquisite Brandy Anderson. If you are someone that has ever been curious about heaven and wonders what happens after we leave our physical bodies, I think that this episode will be especially meaningful and exciting for you. Brandy is an award-winning author, a mystic, a spiritual director, and an inner alchemy coach whose work lives at the intersection of psychology, mysticism, and soul-centered inquiry. In this conversation, we talk about her book, Through the Veil, a glimpse into the afterlife, where she had the unique experience of connecting with loved ones on the other side of the veil. And I will let her tell the story, but I just want to say the wisdom and the profound and healing and transformative teachings that come through are stunningly beautiful. And for those of us that grew up Christian, there can be fear around this kind of thing. And we talk about when that fear can be helpful and a good thing and how to have discernment. And this was something her and her family moved through as well at first. And also, I just want to say, the fruit and the profound healing and even the lives that were saved from this teaching are truly remarkable. This conversation is truly one that felt like it became more beautiful as our conversation went on. The beauty of mysticism just really struck me in this conversation. And if this is where Christianity is going, we are in for a beautiful ride, and just made me feel excited about the future and where we are headed as followers of Jesus. Episcopal priest, my favorite writer, an incredible spiritual teacher, Cynthia Bourgeault, says that I believe that Christianity is fundamentally all about the exchange between realms. And that is what I have found and seen in the work of Brandy, is that she eloquently somehow mysteriously brings the wisdom of heaven through herself, through her words, and shares them with us, and somehow helps to bring the mystery and the goodness of heaven a little more here through us. Friend, you are divinely created. You are an incredible, uniquely made human, equipped to bring more of heaven here simply by being authentically and beautifully and stunningly you. Thank you for being here. I hope that somehow mysteriously and wonderfully today's episode brings a little more Jesus energy through us here with us and reminds us of the goodness of Jesus and helps us come more fully alive. Thank you for being here. And without further ado, let's learn from the incredible Brandy Anderson. The countdown always makes me laugh. Yay, I'm here with Brandy Anderson, an incredible writer, author of a beautiful book, Through the Veil, Glimpse into the Afterlife, and just a very beautiful and, I would say, clear spiritual teacher. Everything that I get from your work and your writing has felt very clear. Just like, yep, that's it. Like, you must have a divine connection, and it's just, yep, there it is. Not fuzzy, taken over by things, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
So I'm really delighted to have you here.
Well, thank
Thanks for
you.
being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'd love to simply begin. And so we're like meeting for the first time
Yeah.
right here. Although it's funny when you read someone's work, I'm like, oh, I feel like I know you in so many ways. But so I'd love to simply begin with like who you are, what you're up to, anything from your mission in life to what you would love to do on a free afternoon.
Yeah. Well, my name is Brandy Anderson. I live in a small town in Alabama with my husband and our little bulldog, Clementine. Yeah.
Cute. I love that.
Yeah, she's God made her cute for a reason. She's a whole handful. And I'm a spiritual director, a Jungian coach, and the author of Through
Mm,
the Veil, A Glimpse into the Afterlife. And I also contributed a chapter to another publication that just released through Choir Publishing, Quantum Theology, Volume 1. And I have another book in the editing process that will be released probably later this year. And it's called,
amazing.
yeah, it's called Transcending Church, Following Christ Out of the System and Into the Sacred.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So that's a little about me. What do I
Yeah.
like to do on a free afternoon? I like to read. I'm a very boring person. Nothing too exciting. Read, maybe go to the bookstore, browse books while sipping coffee. That's my idea of a good time.
I love it.
Yeah.
What are, like, maybe your top 2 or 3 most transformative books? Not to put you
Wow.
on the spot or anything,
Mm,
but does anything
that's
come to mind?
that's really tough because there's so many. There have been so many. I would say one of my top books would be The Red Book by Carl Jung.
Mm,
I love Jungian material.
yeah,
I'm trying to think. I have benefited greatly from James Hollis's work. I can't think of any particular one book to recommend.
yeah.
They're all so wonderful, so transformative.
I'm
Anything
just
by James
writing them
Hollis.
down as you say.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know this is it's become cliche because everybody says it, but The Power of Now by Eckhart
Yeah,
Tolle, that to me is a really transformative book. Yeah, if I had to recommend just 3 on the spot, that's
I
what I
love
would
it.
say. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How did you find yourself in the spiritual world, if I may ask? Like, how did you land in spiritual direction and become interested in the mystical?
Yeah, well, I had a spiritual awakening in 2014, and that sort of opened the door into a conscious spiritual path. I would say we're all on a spiritual journey, whether we know it or not.
Yeah,
But for me, I was just living my life, not on a conscious spiritual journey at all. And I had this spiritual awakening, and it sort of shifted the trajectory of my life. And so I plugged into church at that time because I was coming from a Christian perspective. I was raised in a Christian family. So
yeah,
I just did the only thing I knew to do, which was just go to church.
yeah.
And so I spent years in the church, but just studying and really drilling down into various theologies, filtering everything through a theological and philosophical lens during that time. And ultimately, I came to the end of all that just disenchanted with mainstream Christianity. And so I shifted into a more mystical space, contemplative space,
Yeah,
however you like to frame it. And
yeah.
so, yeah, so that's kind of what led me into really the space that I'm in now, which is definitely a more mystical space.
How would you define mysticism? Sorry, I'm going off the rails here a little
It's
bit, but
okay, yeah.
I
I would just say it's a direct experience of the divine,
yeah,
where a lot of mainstream Christianity strikes me as just very conceptual.
yeah,
And during my time in that space, it was also very conceptual for me, which
yeah.
is also very fear inducing because you're in your head about it, right? You're trying
Mm,
to iron everything out rationally, logically. You're trying to have certainty,
mm.
connect all of the theological dots and check all of the correct boxes. And so it's just a sense of urgency and fear around that. And so a more mystical space to me just means more experiential.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
What do you think? I guess I'm just curious, how do you think people would benefit from leaning more into that experiential, mystical way of experiencing God?
Well, it's a lot more peaceful.
Mm,
The peace that surpasses understanding.
yeah.
Well, you can't have the peace that surpasses understanding unless you give up your right to understand, right? You have to
Mm,
you have to let go of all of that conceptualization and rest.
yeah.
God, all that we have, all of the theology, all of the doctrines, they're just fingers pointing at the moon, as the mystics say.
Mm,
So it's about resting in the experience of what cannot be spoken, because
mm,
God is, just beyond any words that we could ever use to describe God, anyway. And so, I believe for me, the benefit would be, or what I would say the benefit would be, is that you have that peace that surpasses
yeah.
understanding. Yeah,
That's beautiful. And I love that you said fingers pointing at the moon with the, did you see the big full moon last night?
I did. It's gorgeous. Yeah.
So gorgeous. I was laughing. This is so dumb. Like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I was laughing at this meme or I don't even know what they're called, that was like, "Whoever does the PR for the moon is is really on track, like,
Right.
there's another full moon, you got it," but I was hook, line, and sinkered. My son and I were outside last night taking it in, and
Yeah.
anywho, random tangent.
Yeah.
Um, so, okay, I read most of your book while I was flying with my daughter on a trip, and it is so, so beautiful, and I know you said that it's been out almost 2 years now, and it's just so funny how life happens, and here I randomly found you and read your work, and I find it to be incredibly timely and beautiful, and again, it feels like an experience, and it feels like clear wisdom. I I would love to know, like, how did your book come about, and when did that experience that you describe in the book take place in regards to, like, your experiential or pardon me, your 2014?
Yeah, so, I had the spiritual awakening in 2014, and then, in 2021, my grandmother died, and I don't know if you're wanting to touch on this just yet, but, she found a way to push her way back into time and space and communicate with us by typing messages on electronic devices. So that was the catalyst for the book. But I
There it
would
is. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so but the existential points that I make in that book are things that I had long wrestled with, like, leading up to that point.
Mm.
So it wasn't like new
Oh,
revelation in the sense, I mean, it was kind of a culmination of events that kinda it just
yes.
things culminated in that one experience, and then I was like, "Wow," I have to share this.
Yeah.
I have to at least get it off my chest in some capacity because I felt it was just I don't know, for me, it was so transformative. The things that she was able to validate, clarify.
Yes.
She
Yes.
connected a lot of theological dots. She didn't really tell me many things that I didn't already kind of know intuitively, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that journey, the spiritual awakening just kind of sent me on that journey of seeking out ultimate truth. And then I spent those years in the church wrestling with existential questions. And ultimately I just came out the other side disenchanted with all of that. So by the time my grandmother crossed, I'd already shifted into a more, mystical
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
So, but that experience with my grandmother pushing her way back through the veil,
Yeah.
that is what brought things into sharp focus for me with searing existential clarity.
So can I first ask, like, what were your, biggest, like, yearnings that you feel your and then I have so many questions about your it's
Yeah.
Mildred, right?
Yes,
Your
her name is
grandmother?
Mildred. Yes. Yeah.
About how that happened, but what what was your heart still, like, longing for when you had landed in that mystical space? Like, your big questions.
I guess at that time, I really was resting a lot in the peace of I mean, I
Okay.
just really
Yeah.
had learned to rest in the mystery of some things. So I really wasn't
Yeah.
wrestling anymore. I had all of that
Okay.
had ceased.
Yeah.
Of course, I didn't have all of the I don't think we'll ever have all of the answers.
Yeah.
But I no longer felt like if I don't figure these things out, there's mortal danger,
Yeah. Yeah.
existential threat of not
Yeah.
having it all resolved. I was able to just live with those loose ends a little bit. And so
Yeah.
I had questions. I'm full of questions. So don't get me wrong. I had plenty
Yeah.
that I wanted to inquire about, but nothing that was just really, keeping me awake at night anymore.
Okay. Yeah. And so what exactly happened with like, how would you describe what happened with your grandma
Yeah.
pushing back through the veil? What's
Yes.
going on there? Yeah.
So when she came to the end of her physical life, she was 95. So she had lived a long life by anyone's measures. And she had spent her entire life in church, plugged in, Sunday school, church every Sunday, reading through the Bible, all of the things that Christians do. But then when she came to the end of her physical life, she had broken her hip, and so the year leading up to her crossing, she had been bedridden. And so she knew that she was declining, and she also had some heart problems. So she had precious little assurance in her crossing, though, because she was afraid to die. And she had communicated that multiple times to family members that she had fear around crossing.
Yeah.
So at the time of her crossing, what I have learned now, what I have since learned, is that at the time of her crossing, she really put up a fight. She didn't want to cross. She was really
Hmm.
struggling to stay with us.
Okay.
And so well, let me back up and say this. When we near the end of our physical lives, if it's a gradual decline, the veil between the spiritual and the physical becomes thinner as we
Okay.
get closer to crossing. And
Okay.
this is why you hear of people on hospice, often seeing people who aren't in the room, people who have already crossed. They have
Yes.
communications, they'll be
Yes.
talking to loved ones that,
Right.
yeah, that aren't physically there. So the veil it thins as we near the end, and then at the time of our crossing, the veil that's already thin opens entirely, and then we shift from the physical into the spiritual, and then it closes behind us. So it's usually just an instantaneous phenomenon.
Yeah.
It's something that just happens very quickly. But my
Yeah.
grandmother was resisting. She was really struggling to remain, and so her portal didn't close. She sort of got stuck in the middle, so to
Okay.
speak.
Yeah.
She was only stuck briefly, though, and then at that point, she had crossed, but there was an open portal. It didn't close. So she had this opening that allowed her to be able to access and manipulate the physical realm in ways that
Yes.
she would not have been able to without that open portal.
Yes.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe a month and a half after she crossed, the first thing happened. I don't live in that house, so I wasn't present for this, but I heard about it immediately. I got the call from the 3 people who were living in the house. They had me on speaker and they were crying, they were talking over one another, they were standing outside afraid to go back inside. They said the television had popped on by itself, navigated to the search. It's a Roku smart TV, so it went to the little search bar, and the
Mhm.
word hello appeared in the search bar, and they all ran shrieking out of the house in fright. And
Yes.
I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what that was, but there's some reasonable explanation for that." Anyway, they go back inside. The TV it turned off. As soon as they were afraid, the TV just shut off.
Hmm.
And then, like the next day, it happened again, but this time instead of the word hello, the word love appeared in the search. So she's trying to come in
Yes.
love.
Yes.
Still, they were having none of it.
Yeah.
They ran out of the house,
Yeah. Yeah.
shrieking in fright, called me again. I think my aunt called the priest from hospice. I mean, they were shook by the activity.
Yes.
And I was like, somebody is hacking this television, playing a prank. They're having fun with you guys.
Right.
But it persisted. Like there would be the TV would come on, words would appear, they would be frightened, the TV would shut off. So finally I go and I'm thinking, there's a reasonable explanation for this, and I want to get to the bottom of it because it's persisting, it's not stopping, it's affecting their quality of life. My aunt had moved out. She had went to live with her son because she was so upset by the
Really?
by the
I don't
television
yeah.
activity. Yeah, it really really upset her.
Yeah.
And we were all raised in that evangelical faith system that would have said,
Right.
"Oh, it's definitely a demon if it's something paranormal, right?"
Yes.
So they were frightened of it. Anyway, I sat down and I was like, "Let's not run out screaming in fright. Let's engage with whatever this is, and get to the bottom of it. What do they want? Who are they? See if we can resolve this." Get some answers. And so we began communicating tentatively, asking questions, and then the responses would be issued like typed out on the television in the search bar. And it became quickly apparent to me that it could not be anyone in the physical realm at all because whoever it was could read our thoughts in real
Huh.
time. And that shook me to my core. I
Yeah.
was like, wow, I would be thinking a thought and the response would be issued before I could verbalize the question.
Yes.
And then I started to test it. I would think something and then boom, the response would be issued. And
Yeah.
finally I said,
Yeah.
"Are you reading my thoughts?" And she said, "Yes." I was just shook. And then, but my next question was, is this Granny? Is it really Granny or is it something malevolent pretending to be Granny? And the way that I knew
Yeah.
that it was my grandmother is that everything
Hmm.
she said was in the service of health and wholeness. Like it was everything she
Right.
communicated was she apologized for some past hurts,
Mm.
reconciled some relationships, said things that brought deep healing that needed to be said.
Yeah.
She could see toxic patterns, destructive patterns in particular family members' lives. She spoke into that in a way that brought healing, restoration, correction where it was needed.
Wow.
She could see mental health struggles. She spoke into
Wow.
that in a way that's literally saved lives. Literally
Wow.
saved lives. So
Wow.
All of it was just laced with love. So that is
Wow.
what convinced me
Yeah.
unequivocally that it was my grandmother.
Can I ask, are you still communicating with her
Yes, we are.
in that same way?
Yes, and she could she can use any electronic device to communicate. So the TV was her first, method of getting our
So I'm like,
attention.
how many letters does the search bar allow?
Right, and see, then she will have to, like, type and then stop and then type some more because, the search bar is only so long, but, she can also print on printers. We have full-on pages, you
You
know
do?
yeah, like, paragraphs on paper, because she can print on a regular printer that you would hook to a computer, but also we've
Hmm.
invested in these little thermal heat printers. They're small, it's like receipt paper.
Yeah.
And they're not hooked to Wi-Fi or anything. They just you
Yeah.
recharge them and turn the power on, and she
Yeah.
can print on those as well, and she uses those a lot.
Wow.
Basically, if she wants to say more than a few words, she would probably
Yeah.
use the printer. Yeah.
So her portal is still open.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she is also, well, that just begs the definition of heaven, but I have so many questions. So I've been wrestling with how to phrase this because as someone that's like, I mean, I read your book and it's like I said, peace and the wisdom. And like you said, her messages were of wholeness and restoration and healing. And also, I grew up in, a Lutheran church where I would have a similar initial response of like fear or this must be demonic or something. But so small tangent to say like I said a couple years ago now, I started watching a little bit of Tyler Henry. Have you
Yeah.
watched his work?
I love Tyler.
Yeah. And I felt like after watching it, I'm like, "Oh wait, everything he says brings peace.
Right.
It's bringing closure. It's bringing healing. It's adding to life on earth."
Right.
And so, all that to say, I just like, is there anything more you want to say about if someone has like a fear or a pushback,
Yeah.
internal pushback to that
Right.
kind of messaging or communication? Yeah, is there anything else you
Yeah.
want to say about that?
Sure. Well, I would just say Jesus said you will know them by their fruit.
Yeah,
And so, if the fruit is consistently laced in love,
yeah,
it brings healing, reconciliation. It's not fear-based or anything like that, then, I mean, that's
yes.
kind of how you can tell. In fact, I would venture to say that a lot of the theology that is fear-based is, the fruit of that has caused people to literally take their lives, some of the theology in churches,
Yeah.
and so the communications from my grandmother are the antithesis of that.
Oh,
Rather than causing people to want to take their own
wow.
lives or to
Yes.
feeling like they don't belong. My grandmother, everything she said was to save life, to,
Wow.
bring life, to help people to
Wow.
live their highest life.
Wow.
Yeah. So, for me, I don't get caught in the weeds of the community, like how I guess I don't get hung up on that, like, oh,
Yeah.
people strictly in the Bible would say, "Oh, well, you can't communicate because the Bible says this in the most literal sense." Some
Right.
of that, I mean, but that was for Israel at a particular time
Right.
under particular conditions, and they were saying, "Do not consult mediums or whatever." But they also, it's you're not supposed to plant mixed crops or wear mixed fabrics. And I'm sure if you've
Right.
ever worn a good
Right.
poly blend, then you've already veered from
Right.
Old Testament law. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's that people just get hung up on it's frightening to people. And so they find these verses to sort of, oh, well, the Bible says not to do this, so it has to all be bad. It's just very dualistic thinking, black and
Yeah.
white,
Right.
thinking. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I would just say you will know them by their fruit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there anything that wisdom that your grandma has shared, and I know some other family as well, right?
Hmm.
That talks about, like, are there things, like, information that we should protect ourselves from? Like, is there like, if we open ourselves up to everything, can that be dangerous, if that makes sense? Like, is there a
Yeah.
nugget of wisdom and truth in that
Yeah.
idea that's been skewed
Yeah.
and, like,
Abs-
overcast, if that makes sense?
Absolutely. My grandmother would say, careful.
Yeah.
Because when she, began communicating, we had all kinds of questions about how are you able to do this? And, she says that, most people do want to communicate with their loved ones when they cross, they just can't. Like if
Hmm.
there's no open portal, they're
Hmm.
very limited on being able to manipulate the physical realm because it requires energy. And if there's no portal, it takes a lot more energy to
Interesting.
like to move an object or to type a word or
Yeah.
but she says that a lot of times people are communicating, but it's just missed because it's
Yeah.
subtle, like subtle synchronistic type
Yes.
endeavors. But she does tell us, yes, issued caution to be careful. We've asked her about like Ouija boards, things like that, and she says
Yeah.
never. She tells us
Really.
never,
Yes.
never play
Yeah.
with those because
Yeah.
basically you would be taking a blind stab into the spirit realm. And see, my
Right.
grandmother, her portal is hers. It was
Yes.
created in her crossing. She stays at it and she guards it. If she were to move on away from it, she would close it because it would be
Wow.
dangerous to just have an open door where any
Yes.
entity or
Yes.
any being could just come through. Yeah.
Brandy, I think that is, like, so huge. Like, that
Yeah.
is so, so huge and important. I mean, that just makes all the difference, and it makes me both excited and sad that, like, how much are we missing out on,
Yeah.
too? But also how much room we have to grow in connecting with the loving heaven that is
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
You said
Yeah.
so when you said that as we near the end of our life, the veil thins, can we intentionally thin the veil ourselves through like meditation and presence and silence in order to receive intentional, loving wisdom? Yeah.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
meditation practice would be a way to do that.
Yeah.
And I would say, and I definitely wouldn't recommend doing this, but like a Ouija board would open a portal. And that's the thing. There are various spiritual practices that people engage in that,
Yeah.
thin the veil or open portals. And I would just say that's why my grandmother issues caution and says,
Yeah.
careful,
Yeah.
because it can be dangerous. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously not meditation, but,
Yeah.
to be trying to attempt to
Yeah. How do we
conjure
do that in
or,
like a Jesus, like
right.
a Christ aligned way?
And I
Yeah.
wanna also say this, that my family and I never have attempted to contact the other side, so we weren't people who were taking part in activities to try to communicate with the dead.
Right. Right.
Or,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
fact,
Yeah.
it frightened my family to their
Right.
core,
Yeah.
and,
Right.
we would've been
Right.
something we would've been afraid to ever mess with, so, my grandmother, she came to us. We weren't trying
Yes.
to draw her in any way.
Yeah.
She was persistent. She's like, "Hey,
Yes.
listen to me,"
Yeah.
and we finally did, but and it's
Mm.
been a huge blessing. But we were
Yes.
afraid of it at first, for
Yeah.
sure.
I have so many questions, but how I would to honor your grandmother, Mildred, what do you think is the biggest thing that she would love for people to take away from her wisdom and her teaching?
Hmm. Well, I guess that death is an illusion. We don't really
Mm,
die. It's just, energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed.
mm,
So, yeah. And also, though, that living our highest life path now is very important. That was a
mm.
point that she kept reiterating to my
Wow.
family in particular is that, like sitting on a church pew, waiting to be raptured away or whisked away to heaven when you die is not
Yeah.
it. That's missing the boat.
Yeah.
It's very important to live a life of authenticity and integrated
Mm,
integrity now. And so
mm.
she has really brought that into sharp focus. That's probably the single most important thing
Oh,
that she conveyed to me personally.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How can we do that more?
Yeah, it's just, well, Carl Jung outlines it best probably in his work, but it's the path of individuation. It's just to
Mm.
stop projecting our inner junk onto others and to bring
Yes.
light into the shadow areas within ourselves, to face
Wow.
our own inner junk. I think it's James Hollis who said, "The task of life is to look unflinchingly at ourselves. That's it. It's to have
Yes.
self-awareness and,
Yes.
yeah, and
Yes.
equanimity as we
Yes.
engage the world." Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think that that was and still continues to be my greatest awakening is seeing my reflection everywhere. Not in like a hopefully that doesn't sound too narcissistic, but, all judgment, all perception, turning that inward and doing my best to shift it internally changes everything. Yeah.
It's judgment. That's the issue really is judgment. It's our judgment of ourselves first,
Yes.
and then we project it out onto others. And so
Yes.
that's and really and even when we cross, That's why, I guess I should say also that my grandmother has talked about a fire that we all pass through on the other side.
Yes, that was so incredible. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
what did she say about that again?
and, well, it's restorative. It's intended, it's a refining fire, so it's
Yeah.
intended to burn away anything that interferes with love.
Oh.
Ultimately, we face this fire, we bring our junk into it, and that's why I think a lot of times in
Mm.
various spiritual traditions, death is often associated with judgment. But the judgment is ours. There's no external judge, right?
Wow. Oh,
So it's any
yeah.
judgment that we're still clinging to when we cross,
Yes.
because
Yes.
whatever level of consciousness we have attained, that's what
Yes.
we take with us when we
Mm.
cross. And so the fire is just burning away all of that illusion, all of that falsehood. And so if we've already done that, then the fire won't be so bad, right? We'll just breeze right through it, because the fire really is just the full clarity, full light of God.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it's about dropping the illusions now. I think as the mystics say, if you die before you die, then you won't have to
Yes.
die when you die.
Yes.
That's
I
it
just wrote
exactly.
that down before
Yeah,
from your book.
yeah,
Yeah, just before we got on too.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah, how can we die before we die more? Do you think it's something we like are we
yeah.
participating in? Is it grace? Both colliding?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think everything is grace. Everything is designed to awaken us, which is
Mm.
grace. All of life is just, and sometimes it's squeezing us. That's grace too. Even the painful things, maybe especially the painful things, because
Mm.
life is not going to let us not come into our highest life path. Like
Mm.
it's just baked into it. But, we have freedom in how we kind of navigate that. And we can resist it. Of course, if we resist it, then, we create more suffering for ourselves and others. But
Yeah.
I've asked my grandmother this question so many times and in so many ways. The same question, like, how do we obtain salvation? How do we experience enlightenment? How do we
Yeah.
come into alignment? How do we
Yeah.
get saved? How do we individuate? How do we become integrated? I've worded it every way you can imagine. And every time the answer is let go.
Wow.
Yeah. So just let go. That's what she would say.
I'm not familiar with individuate. How would you describe that?
Yeah, that's a Jungian term, Carl
Yeah.
Jung's. Yeah, so it's to integrate all the shadow and the light, the
Okay.
conscious and the
Yeah.
unconscious. So all of these different aspects of ourselves, we bring them into harmony with one another. So it's
Hmm.
not about eliminating a shadow or eliminating ego traits. It's about integrating everything so that
Hmm.
we're living in a balanced way.
Hmm.
It's, like holding the tension of opposites, standing in
Hmm.
the middle and choosing a response rather than reacting.
Hmm.
Yeah, seeing ourselves with clarity as we
Hmm.
really are, and then therefore seeing others as they really are without our own projections cast upon them.
Wow.
I think
Yes.
we just had a conversation on the Heretic Happy Hour about that, about the projections and how
Yeah.
Jesus said, why do you notice the speck in your own eye, but
Yes.
you don't know? Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the same thing. It's the
Yes. Yep.
projection. It's what we've denied in ourselves. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So you mentioned like going through the fire. Where does reincarnation come into play with that? The way you write about the possibility of reincarnation or that it happens is
Yeah.
really, really beautiful and really profound. And something like just in the last few years, I'm like, oh, wait, that sounds a lot like grace. You know,
Yeah.
like, why did that always sound so wrong to me?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. How does that come into play with, like, if you've already gone through the refining fire, why would you reincarnate? Does
Yeah,
that make
so
sense?
it does. Basically, when we incarnate, it's like a constriction of awareness. We come into this incarnation, we get zoomed in, hyper fixated in the physical realm, and then we're here to learn our lessons, but we have an amnesia as we navigate this world.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
disassociated. Really, it's a
yeah,
disassociation.
yeah.
And if we become disassociated enough, then that's when the mental disorders kind of take root, or extreme evil even. But we're disassociated to a
Huh.
certain degree as we navigate.
Wait, sorry. Why is that? Why do they take root
complete
there?
well, complete disassociation would be like, a split in
Sure, sure.
personality. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So the more disassociated, the more trouble we have in this
Okay.
incarnation, basically. But
Yeah,
and then when we leave this physical realm, there's the expansion of awareness. So we go
yeah,
from that constricted awareness to an expansion of awareness. We see
yeah.
with a zoomed out lens. We get, see with clarity. And so it's the end of disassociation, basically.
Hmm.
And the point is to integrate our lessons in between incarnations. So we basically incarnate,
Okay.
have these experiences, and then when we leave this incarnation, we can integrate what we've learned, go through the fire, do our inner work, individuation, learn our lessons, and if there is something else that we feel that we need to still learn, another lesson that we need to learn, then we can choose to come back and have another turn and take another, and learn. But there are other reasons that people might want to reincarnate when they first leave this physical realm, and it's because
Yeah.
they're still attached to the
Mm,
physical realm. And so you'll miss
mm.
your favorite foods and you'll miss
I loved how you write
physical,
about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So those are kind of egoic reasons in a sense to want to reincarnate, but some people do based on that alone, that they want to
Mm,
have those human experiences all over, or the physical experiences all over
yeah.
again. Yeah.
Yeah. Think you're right. Don't you even say something like the sensation of chewing?
No, I,
I thought there was something like
I don't think so. I
or
know
like your
that
grandmother sewing, or
sewing,
right?
yeah,
Or
yeah, my
yeah,
grandmother
yeah.
said she missed sewing, and she still misses, sewing, and
Wow.
if we need anything altered, she'll say, "I wish that I could do that for you." Yeah, she was a
Really?
gifted seamstress,
That's so sweet.
and she
Maybe I
misses
read
that.
that while I was
Yeah.
eating, and so I was like, "I need to enjoy this, be
Yeah,
present to this."
yeah.
Yeah,
And my dog, Luke, he had crossed before Granny, but that
yeah.
was one of the first things she said to me directly.
Oh,
She brought him up, and I asked, I was like, "Well, does he miss me?" And she said,
yeah,
"No, because he's with you." I was like, "Oh." I'm like, "Well, I miss him terribly." She said, "Well, he misses
yeah.
touch and he misses food." Yeah.
That hits me so hard, like, I'm so afraid of my
I
losing my
know.
dog because I love him so much,
I know.
and, like, do you feel that we have, like, chosen soul animals?
Yeah.
That yeah, yeah,
Yeah, she tells me that that particular dog is my soulmate, that we have
yeah,
a special soul connection, but I have a
mm,
soul connection with other of my I love all of I mean, I'm an animal person, I'm an animal
yeah,
lover, and I've had, multiple dogs over the course of my life, and
yeah.
more than just Luke is still with me, but she tells me that we have it's like a
Wow.
special connection, but yeah, they
I say that
remain.
to my dog in front of my husband, I feel kinda bad.
Yeah, well,
"You're my soulmate."
I know. Well, they're just so pure.
They're
They're
so
yeah,
pure.
they're so easy to love. Yeah.
Yeah.
No projections. Yeah.
No projections.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah. It's so beautiful. So, how has your and I know you said too, like, you came to a place of peace before and that what you learned about heaven from your grandmother was a confirmation of what you were feeling,
Mhm.
but how would you describe heaven now?
Yeah. I guess I would just say that heaven is not a place we go to, it's a place we
Yes.
come from.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a state of being.
Yeah.
It's and it's available now. So it's not a place
Yes.
that we go to after we die, but it's an
Yes.
existence that's available to us in the now.
Yes.
It's something we cultivate inwardly. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within you.
Yes.
So, and he also said it's not something that you'll be able to look out and say, "Oh, well, here it is," or "There it is." It's
Mm.
within and it's at hand, meaning it's here
Yes.
and it's now.
Yes.
And
Oh, I love
so
that verse.
my loved ones they communicate that the afterlife is just a continuation of what we were becoming in this
Mm.
life.
Mm.
So, like I said before, it's whatever level of consciousness we've cultivated, we take that
Yes.
with us, yeah, when we cross. Yeah.
So, are we actual I don't fully understand, like, the book of Revelation and the earth being renewed and restored. What would you say about that? Like, what is our role in bringing heaven here? Is so this
Yeah.
earth will be restored, right?
Hmm.
It's or what is that? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, I think
What's the end goal?
I view it as kind of a transformation. I know that Paul talks about we will all be changed in the twinkling of an eye. So I think it's like we'll reach a certain level of
Yeah.
integration collectively, and then we'll
Yeah.
kind of shift into another dimension. Is kind of how I'm seeing it. See,
Interesting.
first I should say that we're here on this earthly plane in the physical, and we see things in a physical sense, like this 3D world of density and duality that we're in. I mean, things
Yeah.
are tangible, we touch them. Well, also, we are surrounded by spirit beings
Yeah.
perpetually.
Yeah.
Hebrews says you are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses.
Yeah.
Well, who are these witnesses, right? They're spiritual beings. You have a team of light.
Yeah.
They're always around you. So you just don't, you can't perceive them.
Yeah.
My grandmother is with me always.
Yes. Do
I
you
just
perceive her more now that you, like, know what it feels like
I
as you
do.
go about your day?
I
Yeah.
have more of an openness to it,
Yeah.
more of an awareness around it, but I am in no way a medium, anything like that. But I'll tell you how I know when my grandmother is really active around me, and it's my dog. She will see her and she will like chase,
Really?
and follow her with her eyes. And I know that and it's often at very key moments. Like I've just said something to Granny because if I
Yeah.
say something, she hears me, and I know she does. So maybe I'm talking to my husband about something about Granny,
Mm,
something special or,
mm,
what and in that key moment, my dog will just jump up and start barking and chasing, and I'm
mm.
like, "Oh, well, Granny's here." I know she's
Aw.
stirring up my little puppy, but, yeah, so I am a little more tuned into that now. But so, like I said, they're all around us all the time. Beings are
Mm.
around us all the time.
Yes.
And so the spiritual plane and the physical plane are overlapping. That's what I'm trying to say. So you
Yes.
have this dimension and then you have another dimension that's just
Yes.
overlaid, right?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
dimensions.
Yep.
And so when we shift into something, a higher state of consciousness, we're going to shift into another dimension. And in that dimension, it will be renewed. There will be no hierarchy. There'll be no money. I mean, it'll be the lion lying down with the lamb, right? All of the prophets
Yeah.
were pointing toward that. So heaven is coming to earth in the
Yes.
sense that earth is being transformed.
Yes.
Basically, earth will shift into a higher dimension, is the way that I see it.
That's a really cool way of saying that. That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
So what is hell?
That's also a state of being from my perspective. I would just say that we cultivate heaven inwardly, but also, heaven, hellish thought processes keep us trapped in. It's really the judgment, right?
Yeah.
Judgment. That's what
Yeah.
hell is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Met somebody yesterday and we just got to talking and he said, hell is when you focus on matter and
Mm,
material.
yeah.
When you focus too much on material, it's so dense, it weighs you down.
Yeah.
And I just looked at
Yeah.
him, I was like, "Where did you come from? Are
Yeah.
you man?" Um, I thought that
Yeah.
was really beautiful.
It is. I would just
Yeah.
say it's the inner fragmentation. That's what hell is. It's disassociation, which is to say
Yeah.
what he was saying, to become too zoomed in to the physical realm, really.
Yeah. Yeah. So then may I ask, what does the cross mean to you?
Hmm.
And Jesus dying on the cross
Yeah.
and resurrection, how does that play into all of this?
Yeah. So, well, I would say that from my perspective, the purpose of Jesus's ministry was to reveal the true nature of God and of humanity at the same time. And he consistently, moved people out of that fear based religion, like into a direct experience of divine intimacy, like
Yeah.
what he called the kingdom of God within. He embodied a consciousness rooted in union rather than separation. His teaching wasn't about moral rule keeping, like it was about awakening,
Yeah.
remembering our deepest identity is already held in God.
Yeah.
So for me, the cross shows what happens when unconditional love enters systems built on fear, power, and control.
Wow.
Like it exposes both the human violence and that divine nonviolence.
Wow.
Jesus doesn't return harm with harm. He remains aligned with love even in suffering. So rather than a
Wow.
transaction satisfying the wrath of God, I understand the cross as a revelation. Like, this is what God is like in the face of human cruelty, and this is what
Wow.
love looks like when it
Wow.
refuses to abandon us. So,
Wow.
in that sense, what Jesus came to teach is that the divine and the human are not separate, and that we're invited to live from that same unitive consciousness. Jesus said, "Follow me." He never said, "Worship me."
Yeah.
He intended that we would live from that same center of consciousness. But I also must say that I do believe that I think a lot of people in spiritual, they'll leave evangelical Christianity, they'll deconstruct, and they'll get on the other side and say, Jesus is, showing us a way to reach enlightenment. Giving us the example of on how we should live, but then that's it. That really just the cross is just a perspective shift,
Right.
like something metaphorical,
Right.
really.
Right.
I just want to clarify that I don't think that it's only that. I think it's yes
Oh,
and. I think it's both and I think also that the death and the resurrection of Jesus ontologically changed the world. So
yes.
for me, it's not just a perspective shift in the mind of the collective. Like, I would say that this 3D world of form is a kind of prison. We're stuck here cycling through these reincarnations, and we
Yeah.
were unable to ascend into higher dimensions of existence. So
Oh,
Jesus opened up a portal into a higher dimension in some metaphysical way. Like, he ascended, he began,
oh,
he said, I will draw all men to myself, right? He began that when he resurrected, drawing all men to himself, as scripture says. And that word draw is better translated drag. So we're all caught up in this divine
wow.
vortex. It's pulling us into a higher state of consciousness, into
Oh,
higher dimensions of
wow.
existence. And so
Wow.
According
Wow.
according to scripture, after the
Wow.
resurrection, Jesus was able to materialize and dematerialize at will. He appeared in locked rooms. He vanished from sight. He was in a substantial body because he ate fish. He invited Thomas to touch him, but he could also walk through walls. Like, he walked on the road to Emmaus with his disciples for miles without being recognized until he just chose to reveal himself at the perfect moment.
Yes.
Whatever Jesus ascended into, that's where this whole thing is ultimately headed. And it's a
Wow.
higher dimension where
Yes.
we'll put on those imperishable bodies, to use
Yeah.
Paul's language, and what I would say quantum bodies. I think that's a
Wow.
better way to articulate it. And
Wow.
we'll be changed in the twinkling of an eye. Like, yeah, like I
Wow.
said, the collective will reach a tipping point, and then we'll just all shift into a new reality where, yeah, where we have that
Wow.
peace and equanimity.
Wow.
So I believe Jesus is our guide out of
Yes.
conflict and duality into
Yes.
a higher state of
Yes.
consciousness. He revealed the truth about God and humanity, but he also changed the fabric of reality, and he made resurrection or ascension, whatever language you like to use, possible for
Oh,
everyone.
I just sincerely, you just spoke my heart in why I created this project. Because it, like you said, it is like Christ consciousness. It is Jesus teaching us the way, but it's also it's more. It's like Jesus is my guide. Jesus is my savior and my friend and with me. It's like I still have that like relationship with Jesus, not just this teaching and show, and that's beautiful, but there is this like really true, deep, concrete relationship in the here and now that I cherish and want to like bring with me, which I think was a beautiful piece of like personally my Christian upbringing that I want to like pull forward into more of a mystical. I'm just going to listen to your words over and over again. So, so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm glad
How
it
do you
resonated.
Yeah, oh, completely. It's yeah. I'll just have it as my intro for Jesus energy. And you mentioned quantum and having quantum bodies, right?
hmm
How do you define quantum? And I gotta get this new book too. I haven't read it
Yeah.
yet. Yeah.
I would just say it's the Akashic field is what some people would refer to it, the collective unconscious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the quantum is just like the unseen aspect, the unseen element. Yeah, it's the implicate order, to use David Bohm's language.
I didn't know it was connected with the Akashic, like Akashic records and things like that.
That's just one way of kind of articulating it in one field of, belief, one faith system or
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, I think it's all pointing to the same reality, right? The
Interesting.
unseen realm,
Yeah.
that where all things, I mean, when you think of atoms and quarks and all of those things, well,
Yeah.
you're thinking of it in a scientific way, but if you think of like the Akashic records, well, it's the same thing, but there's just different language trying to articulate the same truth, I believe. That's the way I see it anyway.
Well, that's super cool. So I have trained with, I don't always talk about this, but like some intuitives, like former mediums and intuitives, and they talk about like pulling information from the Akashic records. Is
Yeah.
that something that you study or are familiar with?
I have not studied it, but I have read about it, and I think it's super cool that people are able to kinda do that. I know a guy who kind of does that. He can tap into your
Really?
Akashic record and give you a reading. Yeah, it's
Cool.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I love that. Okay, so you wrote something about alcohol.
Yeah.
I thought I absolutely loved this. What have you learned about alcohol? And just anything
Yeah.
you wanna say.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I know the post that you're talking about. I once asked
Yeah.
my grandmother, "What are some ways that we might open ourselves to nefarious entities or demonic attachments, because we'd want to avoid those things. And so she listed 3 things, which these are not the only 3 things, but I was like the top, like the primary ways that people, inadvertently get demonic attachments, like not intentionally doing anything, evil or harmful, but just rolling on with their life. And then suddenly they have a problem with that. And she
Yeah.
said that she listed 3 things. She said it's alcohol, drugs, and anger.
Wow.
And I want to
Oh,
say
that's
it's
right.
like it's the abuse of alcohol and
Right.
drugs.
Yeah.
That's what the danger would be, the abuse. So she didn't mean like having a glass of wine with dinner or something like
Right.
that. She was really referring to intoxication.
Right.
But she explained that both anger and intoxication solidify the ego and they drop us
Mm.
into a lower frequency
Yes.
and a negative kind of energy that attracts negative polarity entities. And the
Wow.
way I understand it is that, we often want to have a drink to relax, like to take the edge off because we want inner peace, essentially.
Yeah.
And most people are trapped in thought, which is a form of unconsciousness. So it keeps people from experiencing peace. And then
Mm.
alcohol drops people below the level of thought and it offers an artificial peace. And that's
Mm.
why it's appealing because it does bring a sense of relaxation and peace when you
Yeah.
initially drink it.
Yeah.
But genuine peace is not found by dropping below thought,
Yeah.
becoming unconscious or more unconscious. It's about rising above thought, transcending it. It's about
Mm.
becoming conscious, not
Yeah.
unconscious. So,
Yes.
yeah, that's kind of how I've understood what she was communicating.
I so appreciated it, and I just find it so fascinating because I don't know how to articulate this, but I'm finding time and again that, like, things that I grew up hearing, like, were onto something, but, like, just enough off that it was, like, completely hitting the wrong mark, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
So it, like, became this, like, right and wrong, like,
Yeah.
very dualistic instruction that we have to live by, but then we're even more solidified in our ego and just, like, feeling a sense of,
Yeah.
"Look at me."
Yeah.
So I feel like I went through this place of, like, and there's nothing is, like, really good or bad, so I'm not trying to, like, put labels on it, but, like, getting to a place of, like, "Oh, wait, alcohol is good," and I was like, I don't know, I just feel like I've come full circle, and now I'm like, I don't really and this is not nothing bad, but just my personal experience right now. Like, if I have alcohol or too much, like, I can't handle very much. Like, I know my intuition and, like, my connection that I enjoy so much that I feel in prayer is gonna be fuzzy, and it's gonna take me a little while to get back online, and so I just don't really wanna
Yeah.
do it, and it does. I feel like my frequency change, and so
Yeah.
I think I have found this, like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
that was trying to get at,
Yeah.
not this,
Yeah.
like, behavioral
Right.
modification thing."
Yeah, I
I don't
think
know,
they
so I
make
just
it
really appreciated that.
Yeah, I think they make it very moralistic. And it's
Right,
not. It's not a
and it's not.
moralistic endeavor. It's like
Right.
really our coming into our highest life path is not a moralistic endeavor. It's
Yeah.
just about being aligned with truth.
Yeah.
And from that, our morality just sort of flows out of that. So, but when you're like, yeah, that's bad and that's good and this is bad and you can't do this. And when you divide things up into labels and categories, all of that is just, it's counterintuitive. It actually perpetuates
Yeah,
the issue. It makes you, if somebody tells you you can't do something, it makes you want to do something. It makes you kind of want to be defiant and push against. You feel very,
for sure. My
yeah,
entire teens and 20s.
right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
it's not about,
Well, actually, I
it's
became a mom in my 20s,
yeah.
but
So it's not about,
teens.
oh, it's bad, don't do that.
Right.
It's about, what is going to serve me and bringing me into my highest life path, aligning me with truth in every moment. And so
Yeah.
it's a whole different energy in that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I still do just want to ask, like, I'm trying to decide, do I go there of, like, why do bad things happen to good people? I don't know. And at one point, my kid just asked that recently for a homework assignment.
Yeah.
And I can feel it now. I can feel the peace in, like, life happening for us. But I went through about a decade of, like, really wrestling and really struggling with that and really mad at God at the pain in the world and the suffering. And if you have any way of articulating
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
I'd be
I
grateful.
think I think that
Yeah.
is a good question, and I think it's something that most people do wrestle with. In fact, that particular question has caused a lot of people to become atheists.
Right.
Why do bad things happen to good people? There's an actual book actually. This is a pretty good book with that title. When Bad Things Happen to Good People, I think is the name of it. But anyway, I would just say that because life is not a moral scoreboard. Like that's why, bad things happen to good people. Like goodness
Mm,
doesn't grant immunity from having unfavorable experiences.
hmm,
Jesus said it. He said, the rain falls on the righteous and the wicked. The sun shines on both the good and bad.
hmm, mhm.
So we live in an unpredictable world, and the collective momentum impacts us all individually. And so, if the collective is by and large misaligned and perpetuating evil, whether intentionally or just ignorantly,
Yeah,
we are bound to get hit with some shrapnel.
yeah,
And even good people, I mean, if you want to say good, are often misaligned in some ways. Like we're operating out of inner complexes. We're caught in our own conditioning. We're reacting rather than responding in ways that we're
yeah,
not even aware of. That's what the
yeah,
shadow is, it's unconscious.
yeah,
We're not even aware that we're caught in the grip of these compulsions.
yes,
So we are acting often it's just out of ignorance. We had the best of intentions. We're doing the best we can from our own level of consciousness, but we're misaligned. And
yeah,
so we're perpetuating evil too on some level.
yeah,
So it's not really helpful to say why do good people suffer? I mean, good and evil are just 2 points on one
mm,
continuum.
mhm,
We all contain the potential for both good and evil, and most
yeah,
people are like I said, they're doing what they truly believe is best from their level of consciousness.
right,
But suffering is not only destruction, it can also be revelation. And I think suffering can be the greatest catalyst into a higher state of consciousness,
mm,
actually. So for me, the deeper mystery is not why pain exists, but it's how goodness keeps appearing anyway. Like, isn't it
whoa,
truly amazing that goodness
mm,
exists at all? Like in the
mm,
midst of mass carnage, in the midst
yeah,
of unbearable loss, unspeakable evil,
uh,
something in us just refuses to collapse into cruelty, like goodness persists. So
wow,
that's kind of how
that's
I,
so beautiful.
yeah,
That makes me think again how you said Jesus about, like, dragging us,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that made me think of how your grandma said, "Just let go."
yes,
Like, I just wanna let go and be dragged by Jesus into
yes.
the my quantum body, the higher dimension.
And something else she said to me, I forget, I was struggling with something. I was worried about something. I had a worry. And I was at her house, but I had not communicated my worry to anyone. So it was one of those, internal
Wow.
churnings, but I hadn't said anything about it to anyone.
Yeah.
And I'm just there in my own inner hellscape. You know how when you have something bothering you,
Right. Yeah.
and then the TV popped on and it went to search and my grandmother typed my name, Brandy, and I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Do not fret. All is guiding all." Yeah, and it just gave me instant peace. She didn't
Wow.
solve my problem. She didn't tell me things are going to work out just the way that I wanted them to or here's the answer to that question, and she just said all is guiding all, and truly that's what it is. All is guiding all. We need
Mm,
not worry. Even the unfavorable things, everything's impermanent. So if you're going
mm,
through a hard time, take heart. Impermanence is the way of life. Things ebb and flow. And
mm.
I think it was John Lennon that said, everything will be okay in the end. So if it's not okay, it's not the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your work, and you speak with such eloquence.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you write that way as well, and I'm really excited to read your new book. I hope we can talk about that one too.
Yeah. I would
And I
love
have to
to.
go get the quantum book too.
Yeah.
Yeah, could we close with some rapid fire questions? If
Sure.
you'd be okay with
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah.
So, when do you remember or notice the presence of God from within your physical body?
Probably most when I'm fully present in the moment, like not
Yeah,
lost in thought, just present and engaged with whatever is arising in real time.
yeah,
Yeah, and it feels raw and real too. It's not
mm,
like it's sometimes messy. It's not
yeah,
about a blissed out mountaintop experience. I think,
mm,
I meet with coaching clients and oftentimes they're wanting to feel the presence of God as though it's going to be some blissed out state of existence,
yeah,
ecstatic peace or whatever. But no, I would say
yeah,
that, being fully present in the present moment is God. That's where God is. And so
mm,
it's not about that ecstatic peace. It's just about feeling everything.
wow.
Yeah, in real time.
Wow, it is raw. Wow, that's beautiful. How about the presence of Jesus? Is that the same, different for you?
Yeah, I would just distinguish between Jesus, the historical person, and Christ, the deeper reality that he embodied. So for me, Christ refers to the cosmic logos, which is the generative animating presence of God that underlies and sustains everything. So it's the divine life in which all things participate and through which all things are drawn back into awareness of their
Oh,
unity with God. That's the way I would understand it. So Jesus,
it's like rattle these things off, like blows my mind. It's so beautiful.
yeah. So for me, Jesus, is the
Oh,
human life that, yeah. So the reality that became visible in embodied history. So he reveals what
mm.
that consciousness looks like. So I distinguish between those two. So for me, it's that same presence that Jesus lived from and revealed is in my understanding available everywhere and to everyone.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you. What does faith mean to you?
Trust. Yeah. Faith to me is just trusting that all things are working for my good. All is
Yeah,
guiding all.
all is guiding all.
Yeah.
How do you hear from God? And what, may I ask, are you hearing right now?
Yeah. Well, I believe that God speaks through the unconscious, intuitive channels, the
Mm,
still small voice that Elijah heard, which is really just
yes,
silence if you
yes.
translate that out properly.
Oh,
So it's the insight that just drops onto the screen of perception, like a download out
wow,
of the ether. That's to me the voice of God, and so it's the inner knowing, right, that transcends logic and rationality.
wow.
God speaks through synchronicity,
Yes,
dreams. And for
yes,
me, dreams are huge. God is always speaking, but we're usually just lost in thought and distracted and we miss it. But
yeah.
for me, I've benefited most from dream work because
Have
as
you?
yeah, that's
Cool.
to me, yeah. I believe that all dreams come in the service of health and wholeness. Jeremy Taylor said that, and it's absolutely
Hmm,
true. And nothing is more
hmm.
honest than a dream. So, and when we sleep,
Wow.
the ego gets out of the way, and our higher
Yeah,
self engages in the quantum realm in ways that offer insight and guidance for our individuation process. So, if you can learn to engage with dreams,
cool.
then they're kind of showing you where your growing edge is. So, for
Hmm.
me, it's dreams.
Is there one thing that's really stuck with you about dreams that's been, like, helpful in discerning their meaning?
Hmm.
I mean, I know
Well,
there's so many things, but, like, a
yeah.
favorite?
Well, well, they're subjective, based on each person's, for instance, if you dream of a Labrador retriever,
Yeah.
it might have one, symbol or uh, personal meaning to you. That's what it's like, a subjective meaning to you. And if someone else dreams of a Labrador retriever, they may have a different meaning. Like one person may have been bitten as a child by a Labrador retriever, and so they're afraid of Labradors. Somebody else might love them and think they're the most benevolent creatures on earth. So it can be subjective. So it's hard to say this always means that. It doesn't. Dream dictionaries are helpful, but really, you have to kind of just engage with the dream. You
Yeah.
have to enter back into the dream,
Yeah.
ask the right questions, and
Yeah.
and instead of saying, "What does this dream mean?" you have to be like,
Yes.
"What is this dream asking of me? What am I being invited
Mm.
into?" Because the
Yes.
dream really is a living narrative, and it's inviting you into your highest life path. It's showing you where your growing edge is. It's saying, "Here, this is the way. Walk in it."
Yes.
But we often think dreams are nonsensical because, they're symbolic. They don't speak, the language of the rational mind. So, yeah, so it's kind of a dance, I would say.
Mm. That's exactly how I feel about, like, visions or things that come in
Yeah.
prayer, is that, like, engaging with it and
Yes.
working with it. Yeah. Wow. I love to end every episode with a invitation to healing, whether that be, like, a physical practice or a simple mindset shift, and, of course, you've offered countless ones, but is there anything you'd like to leave us with for the days ahead?
Yeah, I guess I would just invite people into a small shift of attention. Just a few breaths of noticing that you're here and alive, and gently remembering that you don't have to reach for God because your very being is already within God.
Oh,
I think sometimes healing begins with just that simple recognition.
that is so, so beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your
Yeah,
time and your brilliance.
thank you.
I heard it said recently that when we are in alignment in our path and following our highest calling, like your brilliance just shines, and that's what I see in you is just
Wow.
this brilliance.
Thank you so much. That really means
Yes,
a
you're welcome.
lot.
Yeah.
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 It's been great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
It was such a gift to get to
Yeah.
meet you and have this conversation.
It's
So
been
thank you.
great. Yeah.
Oh, and where can people find you? I'll link things too in the podcast, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, my book, Through the Veil, A Glimpse into the Afterlife, is available on Amazon. And Quantum Theology Volume 1, the book that I have a chapter included in, is also available right now on Amazon. And you can find me and all of my socials on my website, andersonalchemy.com.
Cool. Amazing. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Brandy. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's great to be here.